Not right now. No.
Baby, I can believe it. 어케미를 다녀왔어. 하루 종일.
Hi, I'm Steffanie Costigan.
And my name is Bianca Rowena, and we are
Positively Literary.
Today's topic is BookTok.
And what the big hype is.
Exactly. So let's dive right in. No, let's not dive right in. Let's have tea.
Yes. What type of tea do you have?
Mine is very boring. As you can see, it's just mint tea. So that's what I feel like having today. I do want to show you this cup like this.
Look
I
at
got this
that.
in Chinatown in Victoria. And
Wow.
this. Okay, that's what we're using.
My tea is, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Mommy's Little Helper.
I was going to say, what's the tea? This is very Bridgerton. I swear we cannot bring up Bridgerton every single podcast.
I know.
So BookTok. We're trying, as authors, okay, we are trying to get into all the different social media, including BookTok. BookTok is its own universe. It's its own world. And you've probably seen some when you're on TikTok, right? So
Yes, it's become hyped up quite a bit. Book Talk for authors and readers.
it's a community of people, and it is definitely leaning towards the demographic of like young adult books, or it's not even necessarily younger readers. There's moms on there, there's older readers, but they're reading young adult. That's what's popular.
Yes, it's like what's popular in the reading world.
I think because BookTok reaches so many people that even our local bookstore, shout out to Analog Books, I love that store, they have a section of BookTok novels, of BookTok books.
Yes, I've noticed that. If you notice, a lot more bookstores have that popping up where they have little signs of what's popular on BookTok, and Analog has that. I've seen it in chapters as
Because
well.
we don't want to miss out.
Exactly. We
Right?
want to be a part of the community, a part of the love.
Speaking of missing out, I was seeing a lot about Haunting Adeline, and I wanted to read it. Okay, so when Twilight came out, I was like, I'm never going to read that. And that was because...
It was so hyped up.
No, it wasn't that. It was because with vampires, they talk about drinking blood or something is very, very much goes against our faith and everything. So, but I ended up reading it, and it was not what I expected. I enjoy the way she writes. People will say, oh, she's not a good writer, but actually, she pulls you in to the story, even though it feels like a teenager both writing it and reading it. So maybe that's the part where it feels not a literary masterpiece, because it's kind of like
But it
first
was meant
person.
to be a tween
Exactly.
book. That's the thing.
And so I read it, right? And I did become a huge fan, and then as the books went along, I didn't like them as much. So I'm thinking, am I just boycotting Haunting Adeline for no reason, and I should look into it and maybe just see what the hype is about? I guess it's about child trafficking, or that is what is kind of happening.
Children for Sale. I haven't read it myself. I haven't ventured into it, but I have a friend, shout out to Liberty, or not Liberty, Legacy.
Oh, I like that name.
Yeah, but she's read it and she told me a bit about it. There's a bunch of trigger warnings.
Okay, at least, yeah. Yeah, at least there's trigger warnings. The thing is, I didn't read it because I just couldn't imagine. I have a daughter. I just couldn't imagine that topic. I think it's more about the romance, the dark romance, and the intensity. And I heard there's a lot of swearing. Not that that would stop me, but with the reviews, it's like saying there's like every second word is the F word almost, which we're going to talk about too, the whole topic of anti-intellectualism, like kind of dumbing down of books lately, or at least what people are reading, that kind of thing. Dark romance, that's one of the popular books.
A lot of the popular genres to read is romance, very steamy romance, and thrillers like hauntings and stuff.
So I'm not sure what BookTok you're looking at. When you say romance, because I do have a romance novel, and I noticed it was going nowhere as far as me putting, like, no one cared. But when it comes to fairy romance, we're going to say smud. Okay, we decided to use, because we don't know if we're allowed to use it. Okay, so fairy smud is very popular. Romance as far as fairies go, what I've seen, I haven't seen like just, unless you mean those young adult romances where it looks like a chick lit cover. Have you seen those? The covers, they have these really simple kind of art for the guy and the girl. You know what I mean?
I kind of do, yes. I think if we're on the same page.
And so for us as authors to consider like what's new for book covers, if you see a cover that kind of like simple art with that pastel-y colors,
It looks kind of dreamy, doesn't it? It has like
Yeah.
a dreamy like style to it.
It's almost like when people see that kind of cover, they're like, oh, I'm going to like this book. Even, so hockey romance, surprisingly, like,
Hockey romance.
yes, it's popular. And I'm like, okay, maybe because I live...
Just in Canada?
No, it's popular everywhere and people are liking hockey romance. And I'm like, but...
Is hockey romance like... I'm not as familiar with hockey romance. Is it like, I don't know, a hockey player romance story? Wow.
Pretty much. Like,
interesting.
he's a jock.
Jock, yeah.
But I've seen it a lot, and people talk about hockey romance, dark romance, romantasy.
Romantasy.
That is very popular right now. You know, we both have romantasy books, actually. Yours isn't heavy on the romance because it's more fantasy. So romantasy is fantasy and romance. But there is romance because they do fall in love.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a hint of it in there.
Yeah, so Land of the Dragon, that's yours. Mine, I have a three book series, and it is romantasy, so... But the thing is, you can't just present something on BookTok and be like, this is great, it's romantasy, it's what you guys like. No, it's kind of a popularity game.
It is. It's what people are reading and taking interest in, and kind of sharing their why they liked this book particularly, or why they don't like the book.
Yeah, there's reviews, there's... Actually, maybe I can put it in here because it was so fun to make. So one of the things with BookTok too is there's trends. So
Right.
there was a trend, and it was that very famous author. I'm embarrassed that her name's not coming to mind. Do you know the Court of Thorn Roses? Why am I tripping this up?
No, I don't
Thorn and
know.
Roses. She's got all those books. And so one of the trends was they open up the book and they lay back on the bed and then they wake up in the book. I think it originally started...
Yes!
I've done one of
I know
those.
what you're talking about. Okay, I really want to do one too, actually.
I want you to do one. So my mom happens to have a cabin in BC, in British Columbia.
Is that
So-
where you did yours?
Yeah, we drove all around and had forest locations, just fun locations. So I loved the trend, so I wanted to do it. But I remember when it started, it was you enter into the book and they're literally wearing their grad dresses. Beautiful grad dresses.
Yeah, like
Prom
gorgeous.
dresses. And they're all makeup and gorgeous hair, and they're like these princesses, but they're like in a forest. So it is very beautiful. Mine is not the grad dress thing because I was actually doing it for my own book and not for the popular books. Can we throw it in?
Yeah, let's throw it in.
Okay, so this is a BookTok trend that I did on my TikTok. So we're just gonna throw that in so you can have a look.
And where can people like follow you on your TikTok?
Oh, so Bianca Rowena, I'm going to put it on the bottom. Bianca Rowena. That is my handle on pretty much everything. Instagram, TikTok, so at Bianca Rowena, that kind of thing. And I think yours is very specific where it's the same handle on pretty much everything, or no?
Almost everything. I wish I had it. 1 minute. This is it.
Right here. And that is your TikTok?
That's my TikTok. So.
TikTok is hard. TikTok is hard because you'll reach a certain point, 200 followers. I mean, I don't even know if I have 200 yet.
I know, right?
And then your views, I don't know what happens where it kind of...
It stunts you because they want you to, like, pay for more views and stuff.
You were telling me that how you think it has to do with if you pay for advertising, then you'll get more views.
So I took a class about marketing, and that's what they were saying. So you can reach, in platforms, you can reach a certain point, and then they recognize you, unless your video goes really viral. That's the only way, right? You need one of those viral videos.
That's the dream. And that's why I did that trend. I think I waited too long. I was waiting until we got to go to the forest in BC. But if it's a new trend,
it goes like...
And you pick up on it right away and you're one of the first ones and you're using that audio, then it could generate a lot of views. So I do try to do trends. But it's not... They still get like, 200 views, 300 views.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough world out there. BookTokers, though, they leave reviews like you mentioned.
They're more reviewers, yeah.
Reviewers, they get excited about a book and then it makes other people excited and then you don't want to miss out.
Actually, there was a topic about this that I heard with BookTok where authors were reaching out to BookTokers, sending them their ebooks, and they're like, yeah, I'll read it and review it, and then they're getting free books, but they never do the review.
Even if you pay a company, they do tell you that they will reach out to these people. They will either give a review or they have the option to not give a review if they didn't like the book. So this is interesting. I haven't done this a lot. I've only reached out to a few people. I reached out to one and she said she didn't want to do reviews because she would feel bad to give like a 2-star or a 3-star if that's what she felt.
It's very pressuring to the reviewer, especially when there's a connection.
If she talked to me personally, she would feel too pressured. And I never thought of that. I was like, oh.
That makes sense.
That makes sense, and I never thought of that. Through these review companies, they can just tell the company, well, I've chosen not to review it. So what they can actually do is just put the blurb and be like, this is the book, this is the blurb, but no review. Mm-hmm. So they're still telling their viewers about the book. So this isn't actually BookTok. I'm thinking more Instagram.
Bookstagram.
Yeah.
Bookstagram. Yeah.
So BookTok.
It's kind of like BookTok. It's just a little different.
I feel like the Bookstagrams and stuff is everything.
I guess that's true. It's more wider.
Yes.
Of topics and themes versus BookTok.
BookTok is so honed in on certain things because when something goes viral, then everyone wants to jump on that. So
they jump on the train to get their views up.
I was talking about this with a BookToker. There's this one girl that I talked to on TikTok, and she was like, she felt this was a heated conversation or this topic thing, and I hadn't seen it yet, and it was about anti-intellectualism on BookTok, how BookTok is dumbing down books. Like, people are reading books that are not very intellectual. So she was actually mad about it because she loves reading fun books.
So you're like saying if you had like a dinner plate of book, you're getting like dessert, but not the veggies or the meat.
Even worse, you're getting the fast food. Some people don't mind that. So she was of the mind that, like, don't make us feel stupid because we like reading specifically tropes. So she doesn't mind tropes.
Okay.
And I think tropes are a smart way to, like, people know what they're going to get, but these anti-intellectual people who are saying like tropes are stupid, you're not even thinking when you're reading, so all that stuff. Actually,
my heart.
Right? I mean, I screenshotted this because I made a response to her from the author's point of view. So while I look that up, tell me your thoughts on tropes.
My thoughts on tropes?
Like, how do you feel about tropes? Because tropes, you know exactly what you're going to get. Like, if you go see a rom-com, or if you read a Harlequin and you know it's going to be a happily ever after, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it depends on your taste and your preference, because like if you think about it, it's also the style it's been presented in, because there's some that totally like have tropes and some that leave it at cliffhangers or suspense and you don't know what's going to happen.
It has like a twist where you're like, oh, that's veers away from the trope. See, I feel like tropes make you feel safe. And you're like, I'm going into this book
knowing full well what you're going to be reading.
Yeah, and nowadays with anxiety and people wanting to escape and maybe even just having trouble focusing. Maybe
having certain taste.
Yeah, but as far as things being not as intellectual with books nowadays, I just think if you just want to read for relaxing and escapism and stuff, and you want it to flow and you're not like reading this very difficult to read these words you've never seen before. So I'm all for, I was going to say dumbing down, but it's not dumbing down. It's just like you said, it's like a preference and a style.
Yeah, a different style of writing, really, more of a simplified. It's like, for example, if like someone was asking me in an interview once, they're like, is it hard going from a young adult novel to a children's novel? And I'm like, well, not necessarily, because what you look at is the reading levels, right? And everybody's at different levels.
It feeds right into what I had replied to her, so with different reading levels. So what I had said to her, as an author, it's a whole other conversation for me, and it does get me heated. Like, why make books snobby again? Why gatekeep books only for the rich who have high education? Why take away the joy of getting lost in a book? We can exercise our brains in school reading Shakespeare, but we can make entertainment books accessible to the mass public. Newspaper articles have to be grade 4 level, I think, so as not to leave anyone out, so people can actually read it, right? I do have vocabulary. I just happen to write for an audience who doesn't want to struggle to read a complicated science manual in a sci-fi novel. So I've read adult sci-fi novels where it feels like you're reading a science manual. Like you're reading,
like, oh my freak.
And you reread it and you're like, what? And you go back, and you
have to read it a couple of times to understand exactly what's being presented.
And it's not always that I'm not smarter. Sometimes it's just that I've left the book to be the relaxing thing I'm going to do. I'm not focusing on these like complicated words. So there's the one side that says books are being dumbed down and we need to have more intellectual books and books to have bigger words, and so that readers and people won't become dumber and dumber. And the other side is like, just let us enjoy the books and read fairy smut and stuff, and let's not worry about like Shakespeare.
Like a war.
Yes, so there is a war. So there was a war, and she was telling me about it.
The past 2 days, my entire For You page has just been filled with that anti-intellectualism and BookTok debate again, and I have some thoughts. I did that TikTok the other day where I based books off of if you like the arranged marriage trope. Here's some books that I think you might like. So yes, while I am watering those books down to just a trope, I am doing it for the sake of a book recommendation. I'm not saying that there is nothing else to the book, that it is solely a book about arranged marriage. I give a little bit of the plot, but it's just a book recommendation. Also, I do and have done more in-depth reviews where I actually talk about things in the book, not just their tropes. I do agree that sometimes a lot of people do water books down a little too much. That's okay, because reading, it doesn't have to necessarily be an intellectual thing. It's just a thing. It is like morally neutral. If you like heavily analyzing every single book that you read and you don't want to just turn your brain off while you're reading, that's fine. But if you do want to just turn your brain off and read for the good vibes, that's also totally okay. I think it's made reading a lot more accessible and a lot less scary and intimidating to people, because reading is often seen as very intellectual, and that can be really intimidating. But it doesn't need to be, and it absolutely shouldn't be, because reading should be for everyone. And I totally understand if you don't like that type of content. You're allowed your opinion, and you're also allowed to block people. There's space on here for everybody, and I think it's fantastic that so many people are getting back into reading again, myself included. And when I really first started getting back into it, like all the books that I was reading, it was just for the giggles. I was not thinking far beyond the book besides the words on the page. But that's okay, because I was still reading. And now that I'm a bit more into it, I'm thinking a bit deeper about the books I read. I'm picking a little bit more carefully at what I'm reading. But that doesn't have to be the case for everybody. The internet is a huge, vast space. There's room for absolutely every type of reader on here. If you want to be a little bit pretentious with your reading, that's okay. but don't shit on other people just because they're not. I was talking to somebody on here and they were saying, all of these videos about anti-intellectualism, they make me feel bad. I feel bad about what I'm reading. And that's not a good thing. That shouldn't be anybody's goal, to make people feel bad about what they're reading. I don't know. It's just it's my take on things.
So
Sounds like hot tea to me.
it was.
Sorry, tea pun.
So I thought that was an interesting topic. I don't know. I would love to hear what people think on that topic.
Exactly. Like,
in the comments.
Are you like, do you want more intellectual books, or do you just like your simple style and just give me my what do you call it? Fairy smudge?
Smudge. Oh, I like smudge.
Give me my fairy smudge.
I haven't read it, so I don't know how smudgy it gets. I like this word. We're gonna have to use smudgy because there's certain words we can't use.
We're gonna have to hashtag on here smudgy fairy.
It isn't just about like enjoying the book or having hard words. It's about
The education aspect.
people becoming dumber or whatever it is that they're concerned. I guess people becoming dumber.
When people ask me what's your favorite read, I go way back to like really old books. Like, for example, I love Where the Red Fern Grows.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It just pulls at the heartstrings. Or Tuck Everlasting, The Whipping Boy. Like these are like books I love because it reminds me of my childhood, right? It's books you read when you were a child. They're not like super intellectual reads, however, they have an elegance and a taste to them. You know what I mean? You can still find kind of education in it, but of course it's for a different reading level again because I was a child. But
So I remember reading My Name is Asher Lev. Actually, it's a very interesting book because it's from his point of view starting at age 5 or something. So you have his thinking, his POV is so it's easy to read. And as he gets older, it gets more and more harder to read. It was very...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's deep, actually. I like
And
that.
he'll hear snippets of what his parents are saying and have, from his POV, have no idea. You kind of maybe as the reader do because you're like, oh, that's what the parents are talking about. But his POV has no idea what's going on.
Is it in
because he's
first
5.
person perspective?
Yeah.
I love that.
So that was challenging. So as it is a challenging read overall, but it stayed with me.
That's so interesting. What was that book called again?
My Name is Asher Lev, and it gets deep. He's Jewish, and so there's those topics as well in there.
I think like you need a balance overall. I don't think this should become a war or a fight with...
Yes, and that's what she said. And the BookTok girl, because she's like, why are we fighting over this? Because that happens on BookTok where people just want to...
Because there's a place and a time for everything, a season for everything. Sometimes you want a really educational, good, pondering read. And other times you just want a mind...
I don't know what happened.
And we don't know where we got cut off to. Hey!
We're back.
Howdy.
So I guess in closing, outside of BookTok wars and the hype over specific genres and the popularity contest of novels that sometimes happens on BookTok, I love BookTok. I love that they leave reviews. I love how excited people are about books again.
And it really gets people excited to read again because there is like statistically less people reading. So
yeah, I agree. I think so. And they're buying physical books and hardcovers because they're excited and they want to show it because BookTok is a visual medium, right? So as an author, I'm excited about that. I'm excited that BookTok has gotten people back into reading, has gotten them buying physical books. And if you're a BookToker, leave your handle down below in the comments and we'll check it out.
fun fact before we leave is from anxietycenter.com. Reading for 6 minutes reduces stress by 68%. So, you know, our minds, I think we're meant for reading, like everyone.
Wow, that's a great stat. As an author, I need to use that stat.
Right?
But yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
I'm Bianca Rowena.
And I'm Steffanie Costigan. And this was Positively Literary.
Baby, I can believe it. 어케미를 다녀왔어.
I'll tell you the rest later, but it's just for my boyfriend.
어쩌다인지도 모르게 쓰러졌어. 끌어안게 만들어. Yeah.
Did I say boyfriend? I can't announce. You know,
You can cut this out.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's something that is a topic that there we go. I'm positively lit because literary.
곁을 떠나기가 싫어 어지러운 지금 이 느낌이 좋아 right now
What I'm trying to say is that you make the sky look blue, even when it is gray, babe. Every time I'm feeling down, you can make it go away. Your light is shining bright on me, got no reason to be afraid. You're glowing in the dark, you're glowing in the dark, glowing in the dark. I feel it in my heart. You're glowing in the dark, glowing in the dark. Yeah, you're glowing in the dark. You can make it go away. Glowing in the dark. You can make it go away. Glowing in the dark. Can't stop looking at you. You're like a firefly. Guide me out of the woods now.